Toronto homeowners are deeply underwater and bleeding cash, specifically condos. And if this is you, I'm putting this video together so that you can understand some of the examples I'm seeing right now, as a lot of people are calling me, because like I said earlier, there was and were and probably still continue to be a lot of pent-up sellers after the first rate cut, and inventory isn't quite moving down as people would want it to, meaning that we're having still a lot of excess inventory. So I'm gonna be going over some examples that I'm hearing too often when people call me, and really what you should be doing or what options you have, because sometimes the decision is hard to make. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, if you find yourself in this situation and you want to chat to me about what options you have, because I've said this many times, a lot of people are having the same situation, but everyone's personal financial situation is different on whether they can hold out or not based on the timeline and kind of what the outlooks look like. And if you want to talk to me about your specific unique situation, you could do so by booking a call with me using the link that's on the screen. It's right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Simply click on the date and a time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and the question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Properties TV. My name is Zhen, and if you're enjoying the content I'm putting out there, do me a favor and please like and subscribe. Now, homeowners, specifically a lot of condo owners who are underwater right now, have some very, very tough decisions to make despite the rate cut that came, right? And potentially another one next week. But these tough decisions are going to provide you what I would call financial peace, okay? I've always had this, call it mantra in my life, I think maybe like 15 years ago or so, where I believed in this. Easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. It's literally on my desktop, right? And right now, as a homeowner, if you make the hard choice now, you'll very likely have an easier financial life going forward in the future. But if you choose to make the easy choice right now, it may not result in an easier life in the future. If anything, it'll be a harder life, right? So remember that as I go through this video, because the concept that hope that things are gonna get better really isn't a strategy, because we're already one rate cut in and things aren't getting any better. So what do I mean by this? As a homeowner, whether you live in the property or you rent it out, if you are underwater on your carrying costs right now, right? So this is for investors who are bleeding negative cash flow or anyone who's like negative amortizing and can't afford a renewal, right? You need to make the hard choice. Whether to sell and move on, or you choose to make the easy decision and hope that interest rates will drop enough so that you can keep your property. And a lot of the ones I'm hearing, interest rates need to drop to like 0.25% to make it work. So I don't know about that. But first, I'll start with the homeowner who rents out their property. So like a lot of times it'll be a condo owner, like the investor. If you are bleeding each month right now, the math is very simple. It's hard to grasp, but the math is simple. You have to determine your outlook on your investment and how long it's going to take for you to recoup your bleeding every single month, i.e. the bleeding cost. And here's the most common example I am seeing currently right now when a lot of people are calling me. It's an investment condo and it's generally bleeding about $1,500 a month because the interest rates are high. Sometimes it's on a static variable, sometimes it's on a floating variable. Now, I personally don't think condos will start appreciating until at least like 2-3 years later, due to the fact that there's a surplus of inventory and a whole bunch of shenanigans coming down the pipeline on the assignment and pre-con space. This means if you're bleeding $1,500 a month, times 12 for the year, call it times 3 years for times to recoup it, that's $54,000 of cost. And keep in mind, during this time, you're not paying much principal because the interest rates are very high. So approximately right now, of your monthly mortgage payment, you're paying 15% of that to principal, 85% of interest right now. And don't forget maintenance fees, meaning that on, call it like a $2,500 payment right now, you're only paying down your condo about $375 a month. Yeah. So the question is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Most investment condos, call it, around right now are $600,000. So for you to recoup $54,000 over 3 years, you would have to assume that the market is going to appreciate. Again, this is all on paper, but it would have to appreciate 8% after the third year or within that 3 years. And I would say I'm rather skeptical about that on that assumption right now. Yeah, not optimistic. Keep in mind, this is just to break even, right? So the other question becomes, what is the opportunity cost on that capital that's stuck in this investment condo, right? Keep this in mind. Where I'm seeing investors sell right now are two areas generally, okay? One, those who have been in the market before 2019 and are ready to take chips off the table and take some gains because there's a better deployment of that capital. And two, those who are over leveraged because they refinanced their homes or their HELOC, like their primary residence, and are bleeding right now and they don't want to lose their primary residence. So even though we have a rate cut right now, it's not moving the needle like I was saying in the past few months, which ultimately means that it's hard to finance this condo 100% when rates are so high and you're bleeding. Now, everyone else in between those two seems to be holding on, and that hopefully the market will rebound after some more rate cuts. And I don't blame them. There's like justification for that because we've started seeing the rate cuts, right? But we've been conditioned in Toronto that the market rebounds very, very fast. But let me show you this massive chart that I put together on the carry cost. So this is a chart that shows you essentially how much money you are saving on your mortgage, assuming interest rates are to come down, right? So I'm assuming you're riding out the variable as it's coming down 25 basis points at a time. Now, this chart also assumes that you have a 30-year amortization. So if you don't have a 30-year amortization, the numbers are a little bit bigger. So let's say, you have a $500,000 mortgage at the current rates and you're bleeding $1,500 a month on your condo. So in my example, right, 3 rate cuts is going to give you a savings of $242. Yeah. You're still underwater $1,250 a month, right? Right? Keep in mind, property taxes and maintenance fees generally don't go down. So it's going to keep increasing. So ultimately, this investment is underwater. And with so much supply right now, I really don't see us having rent appreciation of 10% a year anytime soon, because there's a lot of rental apartments coming online and a lot of rentals online. And I really think that we've peaked for rental prices for this cycle, right? And I've talked about it before. So if you can't increase your rent, right, that's number one, and your expenses are going up, and the only savings you're having is interest rates coming down, but not fast enough, essentially you're hoping that prices go up so you can recoup your losses or break even, right? Similar to what I was saying earlier in the video. The question is, how much do rates have to come down to get you to break even on this said condo in my example, right? And I've done this math with a lot of people recently. Rates essentially need to get back to 1%, meaning that, we're at like 5.25 right now, or 550 basis points. We need to drop to 1% or like 400 something basis points. And I'm just going to go on a limb there and say, unless we have another catastrophic black swan event, I don't think that's going to happen right now. Like, let's say we get to 3%. We're not getting down to that 1%. So the question for you is, how many rate cuts do you think will happen, in this chart that I'm showing you? And how long can you sustain that bleed for a brighter outcome so that prices are better for you just to break even, right? Assume a 3-year horizon before, any appreciation starts, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I do think we have a supply shortage in like 6-7 years because we're not building right now. But currently, it's not good. You have to ride it out for 3 to 5 years before you see a good bullish run for the condo space. So the magic question is, how long can you hold it for, given what I just showed you? And if you do want to discuss this math further, specifically about your investment property and how long you can hold it for, if you're in this scenario, you could do so by booking a call with me using the link that's on the screen right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Now, this one is more for the homeowners, meaning you're going to live there, and this is probably your primary residence. And the pinch on this is a little bit difficult, and I think the decision is even harder, right? Because if you can increase your income through some kind of like alternative side gig, side hustle, whether you try to do Uber or deliveries, whatever, right? Try to keep your property as long as you can right now, because getting back into the market at higher stress test rates that are existing right now may not even be possible for you right now. So if you have not increased your income, and to call it the last little bit since you bought the house, like significantly, you may be priced out of the market, meaning you can't get back in. So if you sell, you can't buy back in again. Now, another option you can try is try to rent out a portion of your home so that you can hold on to it a little bit longer until rates come down a bit, and your income goes up a bit so that you can, balance it out. And then if all of those options fail, then we have to talk about plan B and whether downsizing from that, assuming you qualify for whatever you downsize into, or moving into something more, call it financially comfortable for now, works for you. Because remember this, hard choices now will mean it'll be an easier life for you, down the road. But taking the easier choice now because you don't want to deal with it and just ignoring the facts and the numbers right now, and the math, right, means that it'll be a harder decision for you in the future. And you're just hoping that we're going to have that miracle, call it 1% interest rate. So if you want to chat about your unique situation as a homeowner on that situation, you could also book a call with me using the link that's on the screen. It's right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. And my final note on this is if you're trying to sell your home and you're going to move into the rental, we really, really got to look at what the cost of that rental is going to be, because the rental market and the freehold space isn't any cheaper because there's also a shortage of supply right now. So those are things to keep in mind. And if you do want to talk about it, again, just use the link on the screen right here. Hopefully this helps. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya! Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Or this one? You know what? Just watch them both.